Hey, good morning. It's 4:52 a.m. It is May 14th. It is Wednesday. The sun has not come up yet. So anyway, but it's considered to be morning. Anyway, so I'm sitting here in bed. I woke up about maybe 30 minutes ago, and I'm pretty sure I'm gonna go back to sleep after a while. There's some videos that I had made that I did not post yet. Hopefully I can, condense everything I said in that video, in those two videos that I did not upload into this particular video. There's been a lot on my mind, and there's a lot of things that I need to say about the what happened as far as being deprived the right to live my life um, by people who had absolutely no right to say anything about how I live my life. But the reason why they felt so confident in interrupting my life as well as taking from me is because they were under the delusion that they had some sort of right to because of their religion. And so, what I'm thinking about, of course, is, the shame that this covert operation and how this whole system works through church affiliations, not necessarily showing any sort of favoritism towards their denomination. It's almost like it was just this open range on abuse of Maria Gordon. We had the LDS Church. We had different Christian denominations jumping in. And ordinarily that would not be the case, but this was basically a hate crime. Okay, that my family were dumb enough to participate in. So I am talking about the hate crime. Yeah, so we had a lot of people in the community who were willing to listen to the rhetoric of uh, mistreating me, depriving me of my ability to take care of myself, meaning like, to get a job, and also to uh, why somebody thought, okay, number one, when it comes to the employment issue, you know, um, legally, no one has a right to sit here and take control of my 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 career. But what bothered me is the fact that, okay, fine, I was having a hard time finding a job, so they decided to block me online as well. This right here, that was just really crossing the line. They crossed the line when they made it their business to be a part of my career as far as 9 to 5, but then stepping in and trying to take control over my online presence of social media accounts, that was also a bad thing. And see, they talk about, their excuses about my father's apparition appearing. This is confirmation that the soul lives outside of the body. And that to me is a great thing to understand and know. And it gives people the hope of a life after death. But see, regardless whether I had an apparition following me or not, it's still not theirs to take. It's not theirs to take. It's not theirs uh, to help themselves, and deprive me of making a living. And so this is why, which takes me down to this whole issue of the Diana Ross thing. They think that, because she was a well-known singer or whatever, people got starry-eyed. I am not somebody who's starry-eyed and convinced that just because a person's a celebrity that I'm going to have to bend over backwards for them. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of people are very starstruck. At least they were at one time. But anyway, yeah, I don't forgive that. I do not forgive the people who thought that it was okay to rob me. And yes, it is robbing. You know what I mean? I understand that they would like to convince themselves that it was something else because they want to seem or come off as righteous, but there's nothing righteous in that act. Okay, and I had posted a video about religious delusions a while ago, and this is something that I'm very aware of. That people would like to convince themselves that, oh, you know what, we're on God's side, we're this right here. I will say, because they had such large collaborations and the inner working of different church networks, it gave them power in a sense of where they had, control through these sort of means. But that does not mean that it was a righteous thing. It doesn't mean that it was a good thing. And it certainly was not an ethical thing. It was illegal. Okay? And I do not believe that Jesus himself would have approved of that sort of behavior. As a matter of fact, I know that would not be the case. I do understand that there's people who are completely fine with me bashing Diana Ross for her. I'm just gonna come right out and say it. She's evil. Okay, she's evil. If she's not dead already, I hope that she does die pretty soon. I do not have any respect for this woman. Okay, but people like to point fingers at Diana Ross. But I have to say, and I'm not trying to create problems with the community, but the community sat here and let that happen. They let it happen. Okay, we had people who were sitting behind a desk in these confessions, ignoring the fact that this whole operation was illegal. Okay, so people can have. I could sit here and blame Diana Ross, which I do. Okay, I blame her, and I think that she's an evil, wicked person just because of the fact that she would even allow or even accept the fact that my sister Tanya was basically set up to be my nemesis, which I'll go into that a little bit later. But this woman is clearly a deranged person. Okay, and then we had Rex Laverne also coming in part of it. And so people were just hyped up with religious delusion and felt justified in treating me the way that they did. I do not agree with the idea obviously, I'll tell you why I don't agree with the idea of burden babies. And I'm going to go back a little bit and explain what burden babies are, because I don't know if there were two other videos that I had created talking about burden babies that I did not upload, okay? And what burden babies are, it's been a practice for quite a long time, okay? For, certain churches to approach their members and talk, and this is probably the reason why, a good runner, not, well, I wouldn't say the main reason, but one of the reasons why churches such as the Latter-day Saints keep track of things like genealogy, because what they do is they approach family members, okay, and especially like family members that really do not have the authorization to make those decisions for people. Just like I mentioned the story about how they approach some, Jewish families, right? And some of these I'm assuming these Jewish families were probably kind of betraying their family members by accepting this baptismal of the dead ceremony. And what that is basically, I'm assuming, is bringing up relatives, right, and having them cloned, and then these families raising these children, hopefully to be converted to the LDS religion. And this is something that, was highly promoted, and how they interwork with other churches to do this, to me, makes no sense, because I do understand that Latter-day Saints have a completely different belief system than the majority of what they call mainstream Orthodox Christianity. But anyway, their tracking of DNA or what do you call it? Ancestry. Their ancestry. Well, they'll approach somebody and say, hey, we would like you to raise this kid and bring up one of your ancestors because they were a sinner, and we want to give them a chance to be LDS or whatever. And, really, I don't consider, what do you call it, not King Tut, but C.B. Berganza as a sinner. I do not believe that. Because I understand, from a very young age, as Maria Gordon, I have always been somebody who went straight to, spirituality. That was always my thing. And I know that I studied the Bible when I was a kid, not because I had parents who were trying to make me this way. No. My parents never, prodded me or told me, that I needed to study the Bible. This was all me. You know what I mean? So King Solomon was somebody who was blessed by God. And because it did not resemble their worship of, what they expected, they felt as though they needed to torment me for the longest time. And just like, the Jews who were brought back, these clones that were brought back from the Jewish faith, there is nothing wrong with their faith either. This is who they are, and they were meant to be this way. Um, and so, I'm shocked that, but I'm not, I'm shocked at the brainwashing, okay? I'm shocked at being a victim of it, and I think I'm shocked at the fact that I was a burden baby. And let me clarify a little bit more about the burden babies, about, families raising ancestors that were not considered to be within the Christian faith, okay? They weren't considered to be a part of the Christian faith. Um, they put, and really when you think about some of these families that raise these burden babies, they themselves do not, exhibit any strong characteristics of what a Christian should be. But what they do it for is they do it for favors, financial advantages, or whatever. And so obviously that's that arrangement, okay? That arrangement right there, okay, is abusive. Because, just like some foster people, foster parents, right? Who take in children and they're getting paid for it, but they may show that they're very neglecting, they neglect the child. Or they might abuse the child because, they're not really going to be as patient with that child because, number one, it's not theirs, okay? They do not feel any sort of sympathy, empathy, connection to the child at all, okay? And don't get me wrong, people abuse their own blood children as well. If they have a child naturally, they can also abuse it. But oftentimes, the only reason why that child is in the home is so they could get their favors from from the benefit of raising that child. So, the churches have done a lot of things that have been inhumane throughout history. And I will say that burden babies to me are the biggest form of, or example of, what is considered inhumane. Okay. And, and I was thinking about, some of the people that I knew and some of the stories that I've now put together and realized that they were indeed burden babies. I see how cruel some of these people have been treated. You know what I mean? And because the church, to me, I blame the churches who participated in these sort of things for the presentations of burden babies. Why? Because, like I said, when I was growing up, the reason why I would choose to be friends with some religious kids is because I was hoping that they were quality people. They were honest people. They would, they could give you the same sort of attention and friendship that you're willing to put into the so-called, friendship relationships or whatever. And so when I hear of churches doing things dishonest, it kind of automatically puts it in sets a bell off in my mind of the kind of people that I do not want to be around. Okay, but like I said, religion is man-made, and people do things, for their own self-interest. And in this case, we have people who adopt children with the intent of using them for their financial resources. Now, like I said, I had created a Patreon account, and I do recall thinking and believing that I had made a substantial amount of money on my Patreon account. And, I, continued making videos, hoping that I would get my money. And then I started getting, what do you call it? I started getting messages, intuitive messages, about someone tampering with my money. And first I thought, it could have been Justin Hayward. Do I believe Justin Hayward was a part of it? Yes, I do. Because, the Christian delusion, as well as the ignorance, okay, they believe that, they sometimes, maybe try to force marriages or make it seem as though people are married when they really are not. So I do believe that they were hoping that I would marry Justin Hayward so that they could feel justified in taking my money. And see, marriages have to be consensual. You know, they have to be consensual, meaning like you can't just say, "Oh, we're married" because you're dating or whatever. You have to literally have a what do you call it, marriage certificate, and that has to be signed off by both parties. So no, I was not. But the fact that Diana Ross would take advantage of me in the way that she did, I look at her as something that is just straight out demonic. I do not appreciate it. Yes, I do. I do have the intuitive message that my son Houston realizes, because the thing is, what I also resent. Okay, I also resent the fact that people promoted this idea of having double agents in my life, meaning bringing my son involved, letting my son be involved in in knowing my backstory. Like, I had no idea I was a clone or anything like that, but they were willing to share this information with my son, and I will tell you that was wrong. That was wrong. Okay, Houston is my son, especially at the time when I realized they were communicating with him, brainwashing him when he was just a minor. Okay, and I do not appreciate anybody who would sit here and think that that was okay. It's not okay. It's not okay. Okay. It's not okay to create or try to create that kind of division. I would say that my son has always treated me respectfully, and I do understand that he may have had dual affiliations, because this is very common when it comes to people who are victims of human trafficking. Okay, it is not acceptable. It is not acceptable for people to, like, Diana Ross, or people who were associated with it, or even my my siblings from my adoptive family, poisoning my son and thinking and having him think one way about me. That is, I never had any intentions of introducing my son to religion at all. Okay, because I understood that religion could be very corrupt, and it was. Okay, it is very corrupt. So anyway, the issue of burden babies was corruption that entered into the church, and it became very common for people to do this. And it's funny because, like, you never hear of a lot of mainstream stories about burden babies. They've always been, kind of a hush hush thing. And I do know that in the past, like, they would talk about adoptions, and having storks coming around delivering babies. And I do believe that this is a part of the mystery of these what do you call it, burden babies. Um, anyway, I do not forgive my my birth mother from stealing from me, and that's what she did. She stole from me. Diana Ross stole from me, and she used the excuse that, and I think churches were somehow using the excuse of the presence of my father. My father's presence, like I said, is holy. It is holy. Why do I say that it's holy? Because it's holy because this proves that there is life after death. Okay, and then also I got the intuitive message that you know the fact that these people stole my wealth. Okay, the fact that these people stole my wealth is unforgivable. It is unforgivable, right? That was a substantial amount of money that I could have reinvested in, and also allowed my son to have had a decent life. Okay, and to say, well, we'll exchange this. It's not a matter of exchange. They don't have the right to make that exchange. But what I'm saying is, it's like, okay, even if I work, I am still not getting the benefits of having a better kind of quality life. Okay, because if I made a few $1,000,000, right, then I would not have to work. I would not have to get up in the morning. I would not have to, get up in the morning in the future years knowing that, I might be tired, I might be worn down, I might whatever. I would have been able to take that money, as well as ease ease my pain of having to toil in this world, right? Meaning, risking the possibility of walking into or worrying about, am I going to get along with the people at work? Blah, 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 blah. Not only would I not have to worry about me having to be in a bad situation, I would not have to worry about my son being in a bad situation. We would be able to live comfortably and continue to build on our wealth. That was stolen from me by my biological mother. Okay, that was stolen from me. Diana Ross belongs in jail. And the people who helped her and these platform companies, I'm referring to the people who work for Patreon as well as Kofi, they belong in jail too if they were aware of it. It makes sense, right? But see, we have these Christian people who want to convince themselves that this was okay and that they were right to take it because of their belief system that they were, of God. No, according to the law, you stole money from me. Okay? And and it's not just something that you can overlook. That was my family wealth. That was my family wealth. Everybody has the right to establish family wealth. Whether they make it or not, that's their right to do. That was their right to do. Okay? And it doesn't matter. Diana Ross deserves to die. I hope she is off the earth right now. I hope she is dead. I hope she is dead. I know that, she had been getting, that her thought process has been kind of filtering into my mind about, how she feels as though she was trying to make it right. It's too late to sit here and try to make it right. It's too late. Because, having a job, and it doesn't even matter, like, if it's a decent paying job, right? It's never going to equate to the wealth that I generated. It's never going to equate to the life that we could have had. You know what I mean? And it's not forgivable. I do not believe that it's forgivable. And yeah, people do believe that I can, improve work culture. And I do want to improve work culture. I can improve work culture just by setting an example. I'm good at that sort of stuff. Okay. But anyway, the moral reset and the laying the foundation, like I said, it's taking me some time because I really don't have any enthusiasm, right? Because I feel as though, I have worked so hard and exerted so much energy on my project when that money should have been mine. You know what I mean? And I'm wondering, am I ever going to be able to make any other projects to where I can, make back what was taken from me? Because it's really important. It's like, because I don't get me wrong. If I get a job, I'll go to work. But I deserve to have my chance of making a decent living. I have the right to do that. You know what I mean? And that was my money. It was like, how could you do that? How could you do that? She's an evil woman, and I feel very upset. And like I said, that was my right. And I feel very deprived and angry about it. And I do get the feeling that the dual affiliations are being weeded out. This is the only way. People who participated in human trafficking, who, that you are aware of, who have been bullying other people and talking about how certain people are not fit and this sort of stuff, they need to be reported. And they need to be, exiting from the workplace. Too bad what happens to them. In order to end human trafficking, people need to get out. These people need to be, the roles need to be reversed. They need to be the ones who are facing, financial hard times, and people who are deserving need to be the ones who are in the correct positions. Now, what else did I want to say? I am very sad, that these people took my money. And the very fact that, to me, Diana Ross deserves to die because of the pain that she's caused. And then her I keep getting this message, okay? The message that I'm getting right now also has something to do with Elon Musk. I would prefer if Elon Musk knows my family, and I'm talking about my biological family as well as my adoptive family. I would prefer people stay out of my relationship with Elon Musk and me have just a friendship with Elon Musk by myself. I do not want any opportunity of people trying to make him a puppet or make him a dingle or anything like that, because this is the sort of manipulative behavior that these people have, okay? My goal is to forget both my biological as well as my adoptive family. And I do not want anybody trying to, forge the, have these, or try to be put in situations where I have my ex-family members, whether they're biological or adoptive, wanting, to take advantage or try to have these sort of expectations about me having a relationship with Elon Musk. I will not use this man for his money. I will not use him for his money. I am not using him for his prestige. I just want to be his friend. You know what I mean? Which is something that these people cannot understand. I would never treat somebody the way that these people treated me. Okay, and I understand some people are very accustomed to using other people for their money. I want to be Elon's friend because, you know what? I believe that he deserves to be treated like a human being. Okay, which is something that, I could give him on a friendship level that no one's ever given him. Okay, and I don't believe that he's ever really had any true friends, because if I understand, a lot of the people within this social group that I belong to have been victims of being abused themselves. If you grew up, in this cloning program, okay, you probably went to school, you were probably bullied as a kid, you probably never had any quality relationships, okay? And see, I understand how to be a quality friend, a real friend, okay? Meaning, like, if you tell me a secret, I'm not telling anybody. I know how to be a true friend. You know what I mean? And I don't want to be any part of anything that even slightly resembles, a dishonest person that's just out to milk people. I hate those kind of people. And this is why I don't like the idea of friendships, relationships, or whatever, because people really do not know how to be true, sincere friends. Okay? So, what else do I want to talk about? Okay, so I explained what burden babies are. I am a burden baby. Apparently, my father was a burden baby. Louise gave birth to James Gordon. Do I believe that these people, their families a lot of times kind of rely on, the help of these kids or whatever, so that they can get employment opportunities or whatever? I'm completely against that. I am completely against that. You are, and see, back then when all of this was going on, back in the 1930s and the 20s and stuff like that, people did some really crazy stuff. You know what I mean? I think about the employment laws and how people were basically abused at work and stuff. People did a lot of barbaric things without really fully thinking. You know what I mean? They did a lot of things that were just, because really, when you think about it, burden babies is a form of slavery. It's a form of slavery. Okay, they basically are using the kid so that they could get either a job, advance their career, and then maybe some people nowadays, there's a lot of people with welfare mentality. People get on welfare so they can get money for their kid. They can get food stamps. They can get on Section 8. They can have this sort of stuff. And the inside of their house may be a complete and total mess. They are not providing a decent home for their kid. The kid's not having, regular meals, or they're not clean when they go to school, or this kind of stuff. It's, I'm aware that we live in an abusive system, okay? And see, you have to tell people what is humane and what is not, because look what people have done throughout the years, okay? So, yeah, I understand that my biological mother basically did something to me that is, I can't even forgive it. I will never forgive it. And I'm disturbed by it, okay? And like I said, I want to treat my friendship with Elon in a way where I do not, and I want him to understand that I do not want outside intrusion in this friendship of ours. I don't. Why? Because they tend to make everything toxic. You know what I mean? They tend to make everything toxic. I want to have a decent, real friendship with somebody instead of having to deal with crooked people. Okay? What else do I want to say? I do get the feeling that there's a lot of people who did treat me bad, and they want, and I understand that my Swan Song Manifesto and newsletter and things like this stupid family of mine, okay, and I'm referring to my adoptive family, my biological family. They had no right to touch my stuff. They had no right. You know, you do not touch things that belong to me. You know, and I do know that, or I do believe that Diana Ross knows that she stole from my son. The money that I made, right? Because I understood I was getting old, okay? And I understand that any money that I have, anything that I have, my property would automatically go to my son. I do not forgive Diana Ross, and I do not forgive the people that she was working alongside of, such as Rex Laverne and the group of people that kept thinking that this was okay. See, Mormons are wrong for thinking that they can go ahead and ask permission from certain family members to get people baptized to, you know, enter into a cloning system. Why? Because it's still, you cannot vouch for, okay, you cannot, okay, I can't sign a document for somebody else, okay? Also, you know, if somebody is over the age of 18, like, while they were alive, they should have, if they didn't make an effort to become an LDS, then that should be accepted. That should be accepted. I will tell you, the manipulation that goes on, to me, it's just shocking. It's wrong, okay? It's morally wrong. So no, I don't forgive Diana Ross. I don't forgive it, and I don't want anything to do with her being a part of my life at all. Okay, I do not recognize Tracy Ellis. I do not recognize my twin. What is her name? I don't even remember. I can't think of her name right now. They're not my family. They're not my family. Okay, and it is what it is. You know what I mean? I do not have any respect for Diana Ross to me, and I would think that she should be ostracized from society. Meaning, like, if you see her outside, she's the one who should be ignored. She's the one who should be mistreated. She's the one who should be, blacklisted, shunned. People should stop buying her records. That's how I feel. I'm not telling people to do that. I'm just saying is, why are you sitting here, she's sitting here, grinning in the camera in her little white dress, acting like she's somebody who should be respected. She does not deserve any respect whatsoever. Okay? She's a goddamn demonic bitch, and that's exactly what she is. Nothing more. What else do I want to say? So yeah, I have not, I'm actually going to be working on my newsletter in the next few days, along with my project. And these are my projects. They do not belong to Diana Ross. They do not have any reason. There is no reason for me to have any sort of association with her at all. My newsletter, everything that relates to the Swan Song Manifesto is 100% created by me. Okay? And I do feel bad that this woman took my son's money. That's because that's how I look at it. And I do get the feeling that she's blaming the white people who participated in this. You know what? Yeah, they were responsible. They were responsible. Why? Because they had possibly more influence than, and I'm referring to Rex Laverne and his group, okay? I don't trust any of them. And to me, they need to be cut out of my life. Period. You know what I mean? Diana Ross is evil. She had no right to be a part of my life as an adult from the very get go. None. She didn't raise me. She didn't have anything to do with me. So I should not have had anything to do with her. She does not. I don't recognize her as my family. The white people who stole from me, I'm talking about Rex Laverne and his, Nazi association. You know what? You're demonic, okay? And this is one of the reasons that have prompted me to look into alien races, because of their insensitive behavior and the shit that they were willing to do. You know what I mean? If I'm pretty sure my son is aware that you guys took his money, and really, if some of these people are walking around trying to strike up conversation with my son, you have to understand. My son is only going to respect you to a certain level. This is really. I mean, I don't know the whole issue, okay, but obviously he's aware that money has been taken from him. And to think that, you would try to sit here and try to be his friend and be talking to him in front of his face, you got to know that you're evil. You're evil. Okay? It's like you can't sit here and overlook somebody taking your wealth. your ability. See, the thing is that wealth could have been reinvested to where my son could live a decent life, and then he could reinvest it for his children if he chose to have that. But see, you took that away from him. So to think that you have any right to sit here and grin up into his face, you deserve to be mistreated. You are an evil person. Okay, and I'm pretty sure my son is aware of it too. Okay, so don't think that what you did was okay. It was not okay. It was not okay. Okay, and it's not something that you can smooth over, and you can never compensate me as equal measure for measure from what you've taken. Just by even by offering me a job, it is not the same equivalent, and you know that it's not. It is not the same equivalent. Okay, if anything, if you thought that that was the equivalent, or that, oh, I can just give her a job and that should be enough, that's that you're satisfied with that. That just goes to show you how narcissistic you are, because you know good and well when you're thinking about in the future years where I'm going to have to get out of bed as an older woman, okay, with very stiff bones or whatever. I have to get up and go to work, and then try to and possibly work until the day that I die, where I could have just taken my money that I made off of my social media account, right, that was stolen from me, and I could have, retired early, allowed my son to live off that money. How dare you think that that was okay? How dare you think that that was okay? It's evil. Okay, and don't sit here and think. So if you basically defiled because I understand some of these white people were talking to my son and filling my son's head with their nonsensical jargon. Okay, and also treating my son as if he was a white person, but somehow mistreating me like I didn't matter. Yes, this is what you did. Okay, these influence and the participation that you had within our lives was evil. And I only look at it as evil. So anything that you say is never going to be accepted by me. And I don't really believe that it would fully be accepted by my son either. If he's being nice to you, he's just going along with the motions. He has no other choice but to. But don't sit here and assume that you're his friend, or that my son has reciprocal feelings, or he's going to sit here and expect that you guys are great friends. You betrayed him, is what you did. Okay. Now, let's see here. And then see this whole thing about religious delusion. I do believe that particular video did make a difference. Okay. But see, I'm somebody who has been aware of the crooked behavior. Now, I didn't know that I was a burden baby. But I always knew that Christians were hypocrites. Okay, most of the ones that I knew, okay, were hypocrites, and they did a lot of things that to me were like, okay, if you were really a Christian, you wouldn't be doing that. If you really followed the Bible, you wouldn't do it. Most Christians don't follow the Bible. What they do is they follow their instinct. If they feel jealous and they feel like they want to bully somebody out of a lifestyle, or bully them for whatever, they do it because it makes them feel good. They have no issue or no real desire to follow into Christ's footsteps. Okay, I am the sole owner of the Swan Song Manifesto. Do not ever touch my stuff ever again. Do not touch my stuff again. Now I get this feeling something about Elon Musk, about the dual associations. You know what? Yes, no. The Swan Song Manifesto is mine, and I am not interested in using Elon Musk for anything. I just want to be his friend, okay? And I don't appreciate, I would appreciate other people stay out of my relationship with Elon Musk. Let me see. I am not talking about anything spiritually related in the moral reset. Everything relates to secular law. So I'm not going. I might touch on the subject of cloning, and I might not. I'm not sure if I'm going to be discussing that or not. Okay, I might. I don't know if I'm going to be discussing that or not. Mainly because I am going to be talking about cults. Okay, and I am going to be talking about some of the situations that I dealt with, like for example, people manipulate the employment manipulation. I'm definitely going to be talking about that. The reason why my employment was manipulated, the real reason why, is because of the white people, the white racist people, really didn't want to see me in the right right profession. So this is one of the reasons why Rex Laverne gave me the title that he gave me. And like I said, I'm not wrapped up on titles, right? But I also am aware of my earning power, and we had a lot of white people who felt very threatened by that. That's what. Okay, even though after taking my money, and I'm aware, very much aware that they took my money, I deserve better. I deserve better. So yeah, I understand that the people that were associated with Rex Laverne, the message that I'm getting is that people see them as incompetent. The last to want to hire, nobody really wants to hire them and give them another chance, and they see these people as either dying or going broke. And chances are this is the case, okay? How is it that you could spend that kind of money? The money that I keep, the dollar amount that I get in my mind, it's like, what did you just waste my money? What did you waste it on? You know what I mean? I keep getting this constant repeated message about the dual affiliations and stuff like this. Dual affiliations in Patreon, dual affiliations in Ko-fi, dual affiliations at grocery stores and everything else. You don't have the right to sit here and monitor what I do and what I sell. Especially, and then, I just recently, my son lost his job. I believe my son lost his job because his boss didn't like the fact that, I went out and I go to the grocery store or whatever, right? Okay, these people, and I believe my son's boss, my son's ex-boss, was a part of stealing from me or helping people assist in stealing from me. Yes, and then he's going to turn around and tell me how to live my life and how I'm going to spend my money. I just got confirmation that yes, indeed, he was aware of it at least. I don't know if he actually got any of that money divvied up for them. And see, these people are delusional because they think that they have the right to take my money. No, you do not have the right to take my money. Okay? What else did I want to say? Yeah, so no, the giving me employment as an exchange for taking my money, no, it's not fair. It is not just. It is not actual equal compensation. Nowhere near it, okay? Do not touch anything that belongs to me ever again. I'm referring to Rex Laverne's ex group of Nazi friends, as well as my crazy, deranged breeder mother, okay? It's not yours to touch. Now, what else do I want to say? Do not touch my stuff again. I'm angry. I'm angry. I really hope Diana Ross has committed suicide. That's what I want her to do. What else do I want to say? That I do get the feeling that there are some people in the community that are very shocked about what happened. But this is what I'm talking about: the brainwashing. I'm disturbed by it. Like I said, I have not. I don't know if Elon Musk has responded to me. I have not checked my messages, but I do not want anybody ever having anything to do with my career ever again. I do not want people thinking that they are going to associate with themselves or attach themselves to things that are that important to me. It is not theirs to touch. Okay, my career is my career. My projects are my projects. That money is supposed to go to me. And now I do not believe that uh, that this is something that I will ever forgive. I'm never going to forgive it. You know what I mean? And if I do start to find out that people took my money, and then I find out late, because sometimes I don't really know. I don't think about it or whatever. But then I come to find out that they did. I immediately cut them out of my life. Immediately. I am not going to ever accept, oh, well, we're sorry, or I'm not going to accept that. Because like I said, it's like you knew good and well. You know what I mean? And so, I know that with the messages that I'm getting is like intuitively, Diana Ross would want to blame the white people for stealing my money, and then the white people want to sit here and blame Diana Ross. The fact is, this is exactly the kind of behavior or the kind of response that people get when they're guilty. Okay, to me, they're both guilty. Okay, we know that the money that was stolen from me, these white people who did what they did, are the same people who were sitting here grinning in my face, trying to use my son against me, and then stealing from me at the same time. Okay, so no, to me, they're evil. And then we have my mother, my biological mother, who has no rights over me, trying to convince herself that it was right for her to take it because of religion. I don't care about these people. I don't care about these people. And no, I do not want to give them a second chance. And no, I do not care about Diana Ross. And I hope that she's dead now. I hope she's dead now. You know what I mean? And I honestly hope anybody who is overly dependent on anybody, any human being. I do not like overly dependent people. I don't like people who do not provide for themselves. I have a big problem with that. You know what I mean? People who want to live at the expense of other people. These people deserve to die. They do. I mean, they're a waste of space. You know what I mean? If kids want to take care of their elderly parents, that's one thing. You know what I mean? And they want to. They want to, and it's consensual. You know what I mean? But when people sit here and try to force their kids into taking care, especially when a lot of these parents may have never ever shown their kids any sort of love, any sort of care, or anything that warrants why a kid would want to spend any of their adult life trying to help their elderly parent. I don't owe you shit. Okay? So my son is, yeah, I'm getting into a message that my son is aware and he realizes that people stole from him. Okay? So for the people who took from my son, just do yourself a favor. You can be polite and stuff like that, but don't sit here and try to act like my son is your fucking friend. You're not my son's friend. You're evil. Okay? Rex Laverne was evil. And, I think the people in the community knew that he was evil, but they, this is one of the reasons why I have a very hard time accepting any sorts of apologies. What else do I want to say? Okay. About the Elon Musk thing. Yeah, I mean, I like Elon. I think he's cute. I think he's, I find him adorable. But, what else do I want to say? But the whole thing about, trying to force me into marriage or something like that. I don't want anything like that. I'm going to be single for the rest of my life. You know what I mean? And I don't sit there and feel like I'm deprived of it. I feel safer not getting married. Okay? If I do end up meeting Elon Musk, I'd like to spend time with him and show him what a real friendship is. You know what I mean? Be his real friend. And if we end up having a sort of relationship, then that's fine too. You know what I mean? But I definitely want it to be known that would be our relationship, and everyone else can stay out of it. It's none of your business. You know what I mean? And that's it. Is there anything else I want to say really quick? I'm very sad about, I was hoping that, because I know what it's like to work for employers, and most employers are not, they're not ethical. They're not ethical, they're not professional, and I know that it can be very draining working for them. This is another reason why, it's not proper compensation. The thing is, these people owe me, what they took from me. Okay? They owe what they took. And that is what it is. Okay? They don't deserve to be forgiven. I will not forgive them. And it's stupid for them to think that. And it's stupid for them to sit there and think, the people who thought, well, I took her money, but she can get food stamps or she can go get a job. That just goes to show you how evil and wicked you are. Okay? Because everybody knows to have financial independence, financial wealth, okay, is something that a lot of people strive for. And the very fact that I was able to accomplish that, we are dealing with people who are outright evil and just stole it, okay? Stole it. And we have companies like Patreon and Ko-fi that should also be in jail. Okay, especially if they were aware of it, and I do believe that they were aware of it. But what made them think that it was okay? Their religion. Their religion. No, your religion is not right. Religions have been corrupt and have done corrupt things for a very long time. And the whole burden baby thing, that to me is nothing but corrupt. Taking people who, from different time periods, and trying to force their religion, that's not even necessary. There was nothing was wrong with those Jewish people's souls. And they did not need to be brought back to life. And it wasn't really when you really think about it, these people are dead, right? And then you have relatives that were like, oh yeah, we'll go ahead and have these people baptized in the Mormon faith, and they'll raise them, and or whatever faith, right, a Christian faith or whatever, and they'll raise them, but the person never had any right to say whether they wanted to come back or not. You know what I mean? This is another thing that when it comes to getting authorization, like maybe Mormons thought that they were justified by talking to Diana Ross about manipulating my employment. Well, guess what? Diana Ross is not my legal mother. And even if she was my legal mother, I'm over the age of 18. What you did was illegal. What you did was illegal. Um, and so, Mormons are basing their idea of having authorization based off what they personally feel or what they think. It's not based off of law. There's no legal reason why Mormons are doing the shit that they do, and it angers me. And what else do I want to say before I end this off? Yeah, I do understand about the alien cloning process, but see, just because you learn the skill from an alien group, or it doesn't have alien origins, the whole process of cloning, the fact is that it doesn't make it right that they've done it. It is an ancient practice, and it can be used for good. Like, I know Charles Taze Russell talks about, the new world or the new earth, and the only way that you can really do that is through cloning. But I myself do not believe in any of that. I do not want to come back to a new earth. I don't want any of that. Okay, and the very fact that I don't know who was messing around with my U.S. citizenship or who were constantly using that keeps coming up to my mind. I know that they talked about me being a U.S. citizen. Yeah, I understand the cloning process probably happened through British intelligence in agreement with the United States or whatever. But the reason why that was brought up is because I was a targeted individual. A lot of times, they want to take advantage of people, and they want to find any dirt that they possibly could so they can use it as leverage. Yes, I am a United States citizen. My birth certificate is completely legitimate. Like I said, when I have the actual birth certificate copy, I mean the actual birth certificate that was my parents obtained many, many years ago. But I wrote to the Department of Vital Statistics in Nevada and received a certified copy of my birth certificate. I would not have a certified copy on file with the Vital Statistics in the state of Nevada if my citizenship and my birth certificate was not looked upon as legitimate. So these people are ignorant as hell. Now, when it comes to these alien races, yes, some alien races, they do not understand that people have rights, and that certain things that these people do, the pain that they inflict on people, is very damaging. Like, these, I'm referring to the white race of people who were assisting these Nazi groups, okay, that may come from certain bloodlines. They are lacking in empathy, much like things like Greys. Or there's another alien race, I believe they're called the Yahyels, okay? Yahyel alien group or whatever, do not have empathy. Okay, this is one of the reasons why they can sit here and like talk to my son and then be in conversation with my son, and knowing that they took his money, they took his fortune, right? And still think that they can have a conversation with him. The reason why his boss could sit here and let him go and then try to dictate what I buy after they stole my money. You see what I'm saying? They don't see anything wrong with what they do, but in a legal system, or somebody who has a fully functioning mind would immediately come to the conclusion that these people are criminals, is what they are. So yes, there are certain, and I understand not all white people come from this particular alien race. I'm talking about people who identify, who assimilate, or call themselves like Nazis or whatever. That's what they are. People are excited about ending human trafficking. I hope so. I hope so, and I do believe the answer is in dual associations, dual affiliations. People who who are manning the desk, who might be like maybe a Nazi, or might be a member of a certain church, where they are treating, people who are in need of this sort of assistance in a different manner. They're following the instructions of their church or their group affiliation. These people need to be removed. They need to be moved out of the system. I do know. I do get the intuitive message about Baker's Foot women. Let me get some message about them. They do believe that I have the correct path of life. I do believe that there's a lot of women who are trying to improve their overall lifestyle, and that's wonderful. Okay, that's nice and everything. But like I said, you know what? I am very angry that this particular group of people were trying to manipulate my life to begin with. Okay, I don't want anything to do with changing my lifestyle or anything like that. I am very proud of the way that I live. I live a good, wholesome life that I'm very proud of. What else? Um, um, so anyway, I don't forgive my biological mother. I do not forgive my adoptive siblings. And the reason why I don't forgive my adoptive siblings is because they were aware, they should have told me what was going on. They should have told me about my biological mother and their intrusion. But see, I think that they were, assisting my biological mother in some way. I do believe that my adoptive family, someone knows a little bit about Elon Musk. I am not interested in being in relationships with these people being a part of it. Meaning, like if I'm going to be in a relationship with Elon Musk, whether it's friendship or platonic, I am not inviting my family to be a part of my life. And I don't, what I mean? I do not want to have dual friendships with Elon Musk that are a part of my family, either one. Okay, because I do not want anybody influencing my friendships or my relationships. And it's unfortunate that they made religion such a big issue in this. I don't want anything to do with religion. Okay, I don't want anything to do with religion. Um, also a message I'm getting. What about it? Oh, okay. I'm very glad that I'm getting this, that people are supporting me. But I hope that Elon Musk understands my feelings about why I do not want a relationship with my family, either family, adoptive or um, blood bloodline. What else am I getting? Um, he's one. I do believe that Elon Musk does not see anything wrong with me bashing Diana Ross. I know a few nights ago, I think I made a video. I don't know if I uploaded it or not, but I talked about Diana Ross, and I was very angry when I found out that this woman stole my generational wealth from my son. Okay, my money is my son's money. Okay, of course, and I was beyond angry when I found out that she took my money, and I of course wished her dead. I've been hoping that she'll die. I have not actually performed an actual spell, but I'm hoping that she will take herself out. I'm hoping that she will commit suicide, because I do not believe that she deserves to live, and I'm hoping that she does get shunned in public. Why? Because uh, you know she created these problems for me. She, along with the instructions of these Nazi people, created these problems for me. I do not want her to continue to live. Um, it's wrong for her to have taken my money. She does realize that I have legal reason to feel the way that I do. Okay, if you see Diana Ross out in public, what kind of person are you for acknowledging her? What kind of person are you for thinking or buying her albums or thinking that she's a respectable person? She's not a respectable person. She's a criminal. Okay, so the only thing I can do is wish that she ends up dying, and that's what she deserves to do. She deserves to die. No, Diana Ross is not associated with me at all. Okay, um, what else do I want to say? I think that's really it. I just wanted to come on here and express my feelings, my frustrations about this whole thing about people doing these sort of illegal stuff. Um, I do want to make it very clear that I am not going to change my standards as far as who I choose to stay with, be friends with. You know, I want to make it very clear to Elon Musk, if he wants to be my friend, he needs to respect those boundaries. Meaning, I want nothing to do with my family members at all. So, like, if I was hanging out with Elon Musk or something, and he needs to understand, do not try to use any sort of form of manipulation for me to have some sort of friendship with these people. Okay. Also, I do not want to do anything in the future that's going to benefit them in any way at all. Okay. Any sort of projects that I do, and I do want to, hopefully I can have another chance at doing some sort of project to where, and unfortunately, they're basically only offering me, what do you call it, employment. So they're denying me. They're gonna they have something, some sort of thing in operation to where I can never earn my wealth or any additional wealth. So I'm basically supposed to work for the rest of my life. That right there is illegal. That right there is illegal. Oh, well, we're already determining she can't make millions of dollars, or she can't have, that's illegal. If you're telling other companies that I cannot sit here and promote my work and make money, that's illegal. Okay, that's bullshit. All right. But definitely they had no right to take what I earned. And whatever company that I do end up working for, I deserve to have a decent position. I do not deserve a shit job. Okay, but regardless what other position it is, it's never going to compare to what I was able to make and what these people stole from me. So, like I said, these white people who communicate with my son, you need to understand what you did to him was a serious violation. Serious violation. Okay? And it's not something that should be expected to be forgiven. If my son is being polite to you, that's exactly what he's being. He's being polite to you only so he can be peaceful. Okay? You cannot expect him to be your bro. You're an asshole. You're an evil being. Period. And yes, I do understand that people realize that burden babies do exist, and a lot of burden babies have suffered and have been abused, and they had no reason to be. Okay, it was the people who were causing these problems that deserved to be abused. Okay, they did not sin. They're not offensive to God. They were offensive to the churches because the churches did not want to have their religion imposed on them, and they have every right to be that way. Okay, I think you guys are shameful. You are, to me, you're something that is so unclean, so spiritually unclean. With your demonic, propagating your for demonic religion. Just beyond upset about it. Anyway, I do want to say hello to Elon Musk. If you're watching this video, I hope that you do get in contact with me, soon, because I have not heard from you, and I'm hoping that I do hear from you again. I do get the message that a lot of the celebrities and politicians are starting to follow my moral system. That's good, nice. And I do suspect that perhaps maybe Elon is a burden baby. I'm sorry if you are, but a lot of people are. I would think a lot of people in the industry, meaning like, a lot of celebrities and politicians are not just clones, but are also burden babies. Okay, so I'm going to wrap this one up, and I will be back with another video sometime later. I've been talking for a long time. You can tell this issue really does bother me. It bothers me. It disturbs me because, I feel as though people participated in an act of terrorism, and that's exactly what it is. It's an act of terrorism. For somebody to sit there and feel justified about taking my money, taking my family's money, me and my son, that's our money, okay? And then belittling it, thinking that it's an okay thing. I'm going to tell you right now, my son's ex-boss is a goddamn demon. And I do hope that I hope to God he ends up dead. Don't you ever tell me how to spend my money after you stole from me. You stole from me. Okay? That's what you did. You stole from me. And then you have the nerve. There is something very demonic about you. You stole from me, and then you want to sit here and penalize my son for how I spend my money. You are a fucking evil person. Anyway, I'm wrapping up this video. I'll be back with another video sometime later.